These are the stories of victims of domestic violence. The stories may be difficult to listen to, but they're important to hear. These are our stories. These are the stories of survivors.
The abuse didn't start until 3 or 4 years into our marriage. My mother had passed away, and almost immediately after she died, the abuse started. He would say things like, "I'm all you have now." Like many of us, I had gained weight from having our son. I once overheard him telling our children that Mommy has become quite the pig. I think that hurt me more than the physical abuse.
The children were afraid of her. I was afraid of her. I'm 5'10", but I'm relatively small stature compared to her. She was well over 300 pounds and just an absolute monster. You do not want to cross her, or she will break your neck. But this went on for almost 17 years, and people have asked me, well, why didn't you, make police reports? I said, are you kidding? I'm not going to call my employer, the police department, law enforcement, and the family courts. They have this huge bias in these types of cases.
I was in the hospital for 3 months, and in the hospital I actually met a crack dealer. Everything went downhill from there. I actually started dating him, and he moved into a condo that I owned. He would hit me, and I felt a lot of shame over that, and I felt guilty. And I bought into this. I started to believe that what he was doing was right, probably because I would justify that what I was doing right too.
He had beaten me, broke my rib, cracked my jaw, had a hairline fractured jaw. And he did this in front of my kids, because they weren't his kids, but his baby. And then when I finally got in touch with him, after this had happened, a few days later, I had already given the report, the police, the ambulance, the whole bit, right? And he begged me not to press charges. He was just completely devastated by everything he'd ever done to me, because he swore he'd never be like his father. Every time he hit me, which was almost every day, he would then that next morning cry and say, "I'm sorry, I hate him, I hate that I've become this." The day that he committed suicide, that morning, he was crying, and he said, "I just wanted to tell you that I'm so sorry for everything I've ever done to you." He said he was leaving to go to his brother's house. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I get a phone call from him, and he's drunk, and he started on his binge, his rampage. I'd never heard from him for the rest of the night. I'm laying in bed, I finally fall asleep, I got my daughter next to me in bed, and then I get a phone call, and it's the police. They said, "We're calling to let you know that Ruben has passed away. He committed suicide."
I met him over 11 years ago, and in the beginning he seemed like a very sweet and nice person. He didn't really show any problems with his anger until a year or two after we got together. He would get mad and rage and break things, and I would just walk away or try to calm him down. 2004 is where everything culminated to a point where he was angry at we have a son. Our son was about maybe a year old, and he was being hyperactive because he's on asthma medication, and the baby was banging on a glass door, and he went to smack him, and I tried to stop him, try to calm him down, and he grabbed me and swung me around and threw me to the floor. Unfortunately, he did this in front of one of my daughters. I guess she got tired of it as well. She came at him with a broom because she saw him throw me, and he went for my daughters. He just kept going towards them and threatening them and to put them in the morgue and things like that. So I don't think I would have had the courage, but my daughter had the courage. At that time, I was not aware of my rights. I was not aware of what I could and couldn't do.
I was little when I started realizing some things, and the violence was just brutal. It was mostly when my dad would drink. He will just go in a rage, and he will hit my mom brutally. Broken ribs, eyes, purple eyes, arms, hands around her neck. It was pretty sad. There was a lot of bruising. She would scream my name, and sometimes I would take my name because I couldn't do anything. And I wish I could help her and, try to be a defender.
I married a man that I thought was going to be everything to me, and he ended up isolating me and moving me to San Diego. He told me it was going to be a better life and things were going to work out better for my son, who was at the time just barely 2 years old. When we moved to San Diego, everything was fine until we purchased our first home, and after we moved into our first home, he started drinking and becoming aggressive. And it was only later that I found out that he suffered from bipolar disorder and he was not taking his medication. He would physically abuse me, and one evening strangled me twice on our sofa to the point where I lost consciousness. I remember beating him off of me as best I could, trying to protect myself, and I recall him saying that if I hadn't beaten him off of me, his intention was to kill me that night. I started locking myself in my room to keep him from coming in my room and hurting me any further. Finally, one evening, I found him, after a fight we had had, constructing a noose in our garage to hang himself, because I had had enough and told him that I was leaving him. I'm a champion for women that have been through what I have been through, maybe not as much as I've been through, or maybe more. But our stories are important, and it's important that we tell them and let people know that this is an epidemic that is growing, and that it is not okay to ever abuse your spouse or your partner, male or female. It is never okay to abuse your children. These are human beings. We are all human beings, and we deserve to be treated with respect, love, and kindness. And I hope that our message reaches out to some of you out there that are listening to our stories, and it resonates with you, because there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we can offer you help if you are ready and willing to receive it.